Hello and good evening and welcome to StonesCast 92. We finally got there, some technology issues that I had, but I'm pleased to say that we are all present and correct and we can see each other, including the Raider behind Alex's shoulder there. Chaps, welcome. We've got Tim, Rob and Alex with us tonight. So how are you all?
Really good, Paul. Thanks for asking us on.
No problem. Rob, you all okay? Like the shirt you got there, Rob?
Yeah. I think it's the 97-98 kit, as Tim alluded to before we started recording. But yeah, all very, very well. Thanks, Paul.
97-98. I believe it's your dad's. Is that right? Would it still be your dad, or has he passed it down because now he's a bit more?
Passed it. Well, I've nicked it, so he's not getting it back.
And Alex, you managed to get you out the pub apparently.
Yeah. That's where I should be right now, watching these 18 games. Got a big accumulator on.
And Tim is you look like you're donning some merch there, Tim, for Stones.
No, it's just this is the shirt that Will sang wore in '82, so 45 years old, and I got to wear this when I was playing on Sundays. Mark Gray's old shirt, Alan Cordice.
Original match worn shirt.
Yeah, and it's lasted very, very well. All the seams are perfect. So yeah, it's a very proud possession of mine, this one.
It's very good. It looks in better nick than Rob's.
Yeah, it is.
Well, then you have to make shirts in those days.
On there, Tim.
Sorry, Paul?
You got the StonesCast merch on.
Yeah. Oh, me, yeah, I've got the merch on. Yeah, everybody should have one, really. So there's a man to go and ask about that.
Available from all good bookshops and also the website. So get your StonesCast merch here. But chaps, it's very nice to see you. We haven't got a huge amount to talk about when it comes to matches to review due to the very inclement weather that we've had over the last 2 or 3 weeks, really. I think, we were quite lucky that the Woking game was put on and we managed to get a win from that. So I think that's probably a good place to start. So cast your mind back a couple of Saturdays ago, down at the Vale, 3 months without a win. What did we think going into it, and how did we think that we came out of it with the 1-0 win? Tim,
we got our mojo back, I think.
Yeah.
In that game, hugely important. Daggers the week before in the trophy, and then Woking, 2 really important wins. Our first league win since early October, since we beat Braintree. So if we hadn't won that game, we'd been looking very glum, I think.
No, I think
and a really good performance.
What were your thoughts going into it, Rob? Because I know we'd beaten Dagenham, and Dagenham, to me, weren't particularly strong as an opposition and the way that they played against us. So, what were your thoughts going into that? Or a hugely improved Woking side that we were facing?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, even going back to our last win against Braintree, I mean, I really thought we were lucky to get the 3 points there. I thought it was 2 kind of very poor teams, even looking at sort of mid-standard National League South sides, really. Apart from that, results really just haven't gone our way. Performances didn't go our way. I wasn't at the Truro games, so I can't comment on that. But before Dagenham, obviously we had Aldershot just before the new year, and that was a really poor performance. We looked okay going forward, sort of on the wings, but there was just no potency. So I had no expectations going into Woking, mainly because we just can't score. That just seems to be the issue. And I mean, obviously, when we played them away, that was the 3rd game of the season. When we went top of the league, thought I'd get that in. I was kind of surprised to see them sort of just above us just prior to the game last Saturday. So yeah, you know what? I would have been happy with a draw, really, just to kind of stop the rot and get a few more points on the board.
Yeah, I think any pragmatic Wealdstone fan would have probably thought the same, especially with how Woking were. I mean, Alex, how did were you looking at how the performance was? Were you pleased with how the Stones played? I know we got the 3 points, but the performance as well in terms of what the team did.
Yeah, very much so. I think it felt like the way we played, was it last Saturday or was the Saturday prior, was the Wealdstone we saw in the early months of the season. We actually were playing the ball with purpose. We should have won by more. That second half, we really pinned them back. And I was speaking to my dad at half time, and I said, if this stays 0-0, which it did at half time, there's only one team who's going to win it. And I feel like I always say when we're shooting down that hill, second half down the slope, the crowd just sucks that ball in. And a really positive performance. Like I said, probably could have scored more, but I think the performance was important because now that hopefully sets a standard for now until the end of the season. I was getting worried over the Christmas period that we might get dragged back into not maybe like a relegation scrap at some point, but with that win, it's given me confidence that we can just see out the season relatively unscathed.
Yeah, but it's interesting what you say, Alex. And Tim, I was at the Cheshire United match with you on Saturday with Sadir, and we had a conversation around the psychology of kicking downhill in the second half and how it's starting to really play on the minds of some of these teams in the National League, even the big teams who you would think wouldn't really matter whether they're kicking up, down, sideways, or whatever. They're playing Wildstone. But do you really think that coming downhill towards the Buller in the second half is something that we are taking advantage of and is starting to play on the minds of those that we're playing?
Definitely. I did a piece in the programme about our previous games against Woking, and we've racked up a ridiculous number of 1-0 wins over them, all at the Vale, all getting the goal going downhill in the second half. And their fans, I spoke to one of their supporters a couple of days afterwards, and he said, it's absolutely, we knew that was going to be coming because that's what happens when we play at Wildstone. If you look back at the games we've beaten them, Sam Bowen scored going down the hill, Callum Cisse last season going down the hill, obviously last Saturday. We got a penalty from Matt Lynch going down the hill when we won promotion. In fact, the year before we won promotion. Every time they play us at the Vale, apart from one game in the COVID season when Moussa Diarra scored and they beat us 1-0, they've lost 1-0 with us going down the hill in the second half and scoring the goal. So a lot of reasons to be really pleased with that performance. Particularly, I want to bring Dion Woodman in because he's such a good header of the ball defensively, but hopeless offensively, which is a whole different discipline. And yet there he was, and that's going to do him such great service this season. I think he knows he can go up and head goals from corners, and that's really going to help him, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, the goal, although it came from a set piece, I don't know what you felt, Rob, but I certainly was there. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the performance, one of the better ones I think I've seen for a while, and it was enjoyable to watch because of the effort, the sort of the intensity of the team from the beginning, and it just culminated in that 10-minute period, Rob, of where we scored, where we hit the bar, didn't we, from Fella, and I suppose taking advantage of those periods where you quite rightly said we don't score many or we can't score. We've got to take advantage of those periods where we're on top, be it a set piece or not.
Yeah, well, going back to what Alex said, I expected us to score, certainly in the second half, but I did not actually expect it to be from a set piece the way we were playing. I actually thought Dom had a really good game down the right hand side against Woking. It looked like we were sort of going to make something out of that as a passage of play rather than through a set piece. But you know what, it was a brilliant ball in by Georgiou, and I thought we were going to kick on from there as well. And it's rare to say in football, but I wasn't even nervous at 1-0 down. I really didn't see them getting back into it. Usually if we're 1-0 up with 5, even 10 minutes to go, you're sort of, just getting really nervous and sort of wary that, the opposition could just one counter attack could go and score. But Dante wasn't even troubled at all, which is obviously, a bit rare for us in this league. But yeah, it was the most comfortable 1-0 win we've had in a long time, I think.
And this is a Woking team in really good form.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Ardley's he's managed to get them sort of playing. They're never going to pull up trees, and they're never going to win by 4 or 5. Woking just don't do that. But I think you're right, Rob. They didn't lay a glove on on us defensively, and that is, in part that's probably because we played well, but they were hugely disappointing off the back of how well they have been playing and the results they picked up. And Alex, were you ever fearful of a comeback from Woking? And did you like Rob and similar to probably Tim and I, felt comfortable that we were going to win that game no matter be it 1-0 or more?
The pessimist in me, and at the time, it takes one shot, one deflection or corner, and they're going to score. But I'm going back to the performance. That was a very controlled, measured performance, and I think the crowd was confident through the way we were playing. Going into the game, I was quite nervous because I saw a stat that at the time the Woking game was played, that time last year, Dagenham were 9 points clear of the drop zone, and look what happened there. So my fear was always being dragged back into it. So to answer your question, as a Wilson fan, yes, I shouldn't have been. But I feel like as a Wilson fan, I will never ever stop being stressed. Even if we're 3-4-0 up, I will never stop it. It's an illness.
Well, no. I mean, listen, that's fair enough. I think we've all been burnt by that sort of the optimism of something that may happen that doesn't, and I think it's the hope that kills. So that's fair. I mean, we'll gather some National League thoughts generally once we've previewed sort of the games that Wealdstone are playing in, and we can talk about the potentials of who goes up and down and how we would sit in amongst that. But in terms of Woking, I think that it's unfortunate we weren't able to get another game in or another couple of games in due to the weather off the back of two encouraging games against Dagenham and Woking. But we've had a couple of weeks off now. Hopefully those that may have been a little bit sore and tired have had a bit of a rest. Coxey's had a bit of time to get on the training ground, because we're coming up against a familiar face on Saturday in the FA Trophy. We're going away to Forest Green Rovers. In the last 16, we've got a real good chance here of progressing. So, chaps, what are your thoughts going into that game in terms of how we might set up, how Forest Green might see it in terms of where they are in their season and the league potential? So, do we see a win? Do we think that we've just got to try and stay in the game and get a draw? Where do we see it, Tim? What do you think first?
Well, we know that Robbie Savage has said that he wants his team to get to Wembley. He loves the high profile of a competition. Being at Wembley really floats his boat, I would have thought. But they're not in great form, are they? They've only won one of their last 6 league games. In amongst that was a win against Ebbsfleet, 2-0 in the trophy. Not that impressive. We know how well funded they are and how strong they are, but they are in terrible form at the moment. So we've got to take advantage of that. When we went there last season, we got a 2-2, and 2 of their substitutes earned more than our entire squad. And at that time, that told us everything we need to know about Forest Green and how well we are performing to get a draw in that game. And it's similar this year. Obviously, they've got bigger budget than we have. We're going to be big underdogs, but if we play as we did, as concentrated as we were against Dagenham and Woking, we can go there and get something. And I think that's why we're going to have a good following on Saturday.
I mean, Rob, it's interesting what Robbie Savage has probably come out and said, and we know he's a bit of a media darling. He does love the attention. Do you realistically see him putting out a strong side against Wealdstone and having Wembley as his attention, or does he want to try and arrest that bit of a slump in the league form, and this is a good sort of distraction to them? How do you think Robbie Savage will set his team up?
So I think a lot's happened since the draws come out, and when the draw came out, I initially sort of thought, what, maybe they could rest some players. They've had a few dodgy results since then, and other teams have had some very good results. They're not challenging for the title, in my opinion. I know that there's sort of 17 games to go, but I think sort of York and Rochdale are going to run away with it. I'm in no doubt that Forest Green will play a very strong side, their strongest side, to be honest. I think also, Paul, they want to stop that sort of and get a bit of momentum going into the playoff race, which is looking quite tasty. There's a few teams all are on the round sort of 55 points at the minute, and there is the advantage of finishing as high as possible in the playoffs. So they obviously want a good run going into February and March. I just think they're going to play a very strong side, and we're just going to have to match up to it.
I think you're probably right. And Alex, another thought I guess is the fact that when they did come to the Vale early in the season, we did get a 1-1 draw, and a well-deserved 1-1 draw. Robbie Savage clearly made his frustrations known around not necessarily the fact that he should have been Wealdstone, the fact that his team didn't perform the way he expected them to and asked them to. So, do you think, is he going to be coming up against Wealdstone on Saturday with the hope that he doesn't have egg on his face again and end up losing to us, or drawing after 90 minutes, losing on penalties in the trophy, and maybe not doing what he thinks they should be doing against teams like the Stones?
I think it's hard. It's actually a hard one because he probably. I'm trying to think as if I'm trying to put myself in the mind of him, and that's quite hard to do. I would say he will play a strong side, and he'll be looking to batter us quite convincingly to put that kind of idea to bed. I think that's kind of the person he is. He wants the attention. It's clear he can't really take critics very well, as seen over the last year in the National League. So I agree with Rob where when the draw was made, I was thinking we might do it and we might sneak it on they're playing a B-rate side. But now I'm a bit worried he might play a full-strength side and wanting to get this game settled within the first 45 minutes. Then again, we have a lot to celebrate and a lot to talk about. We have some real top players, and the players, haven't had a game in 2-3 weeks, so they should be fully fit and ready to go. So it's a cup game. You never know, but it wouldn't surprise me if he plays his full-strength side, wanting to beat us 4-0 or something.
Yeah, it'd be interesting at 2:00, 2:15, and see what side he puts out. But Rob, do you see us winning the game and progressing?
When sometimes if in a draw, whether it's sort of FA Cup, FA Trophy, you can kind of have a little wish or sort of foresee what might happen. I can maybe see us winning on penalties. I don't know. It feels like it's been a while. I could maybe see that. I'm not sure. I'm actually quite 50-50. I think we'll give him a good go. I think it'll be a decent game. I can see both teams scoring. I can see both teams scoring, but what way it goes, I'm not sure. Yeah. It feels like a bit of a lottery right now.
I mean, it'll be a good surface to play on. It's a good place down there to play, and it will help us out how the Stones play. Tim, are you a little bit more positive and not on the fence as Rob, or do you see us getting beat and exiting the cup at this stage?
Well, I used to, Robbie, when I worked at the Daily Mirror, Robbie Savage used to write us a column each week, Saturday morning. So on Friday, he'd send his words through, and I'd put his page together, I'd write the cheesy headlines. And he'd always include 3 paragraphs on what Macclesfield had done the previous week, because he wanted to bump up their profile. And he loved the profile himself as being a successful manager at Macclesfield. And of course, what are Macclesfield doing since he left Macclesfield? It couldn't be a higher profile. They've possibly the best ever result in the FA Cup for a non-league team in the competition's history. And he's not manager there anymore. He's manager of a team who are underperforming. So what he wants is to boost his own profile and get to Wembley. So that's why he's going to play his strongest team, I think, on Saturday. I do love Robbie. So I used to work with him. I used to talk to him every week. And I'd say to him each week, Rob, you've overwritten. What can I leave out? Can I leave out? No, not the Macclesfield bit. He said, leave the Mac in there. But you can take out this, that, and the other. You can take out Pep Guardiola's, my comment about City's last performance, but leave in Macclesfield. So that's the way he operates. He's very keen on his own profile, and that's why he's bound, I think, to really be going for this one. which you may say is good for us or bad for us. Penalties could be a thing. We lost to, last time we got to the quarter-final, we lost on penalties, didn't we, to Solihull, if you remember that, Rob. Last time we ended up in a penalty shootout, and that was horrendous because we thought we had a chance for a bit of a giant killing ourselves then.
Yeah.
Could have been in the semi-final, and the semi-finalists then were fairly poor. But we couldn't do it. We couldn't get through. So, but yeah, this is our turn to win on penalties, I think.
So in true MP style, you haven't particularly answered the question. So are we going to win or not, Tim?
I'd love if we got halfway. I think we got a puncher's chance. We've got a 30% chance, but we've got to be really on our game.
Yeah.
We've got to get an outlandish goal from Shikuna. We've got to get Cookie landing a header from a corner or Woodman. But we went there and got a well-deserved 2-2 last season when the differences between the teams were more pronounced than they are now.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm going to go that we're going to win the game. I don't think Robbie Savage will play as strong a team as he's probably going to make out. I still think that there's that carrot of playoffs and the championship. But I think you're right. We've got to be cautious of Robbie Savage, his profile, his ego, and the fact he wants his team to do well. So it will be a tough one. Alex, are you with me, or are you a bit more with Rob and Tim in terms of how we're going to do?
I'm probably more towards Tim and Rob.
Oh.
For me, it's a 50-50. It's a toss of a coin, and then some. I'm not sure. If it was at home, I'll be a lot more confident. But it's away from home, and I don't mean to jinx it, but I was looking at my own away record with Willstone over the last 2 or 3 seasons. It's absolutely honking. It's absolutely honking.
What's that, Alex? Your record?
Yeah, so
games
I think
that you've seen.
Yeah, in the last year, I've been to most of the away games. The ones I haven't gone to, we've won, barring Aldershot. And I'm going to Forest Green, so make of that what you will.
That's given us all a fillip.
Yeah, I know it's quite terrible, but in the FA Trophy, you never know. I mean, we could, I think someone said previously, we could nick it with a long shot, nick it from a corner. By any means, I don't mind. I don't care if we score in the first minute and shithouse it for the rest of the game. As long as we get that, as long as we get into the hat for the next round, because then you look that if we actually do go into the next round, there's not many teams left who are above us in the table. I believe if we were to win, it would be a maximum of Scunthorpe and Southend, who are above us currently in the table, who are still left in the competition.
Yeah.
That we've got really good odds to actually go really far. So that should be incentive for the players, more so than the Forest Green players, because they have the playoffs on their mind. Whereas for us, this is it. We go out there, we win, and the route to Wembley is pretty. We have a real good chance, and we can do it. We can do it. Depends what Willstone turns up, but we can do it.
What I might say is that although Robbie Savage is very ego-driven, what is better for a manager's ego than to start with an 11 players and have 5 or 6 really good subs on the bench, change the game in your favour halfway through, and then take the accolades of having manufactured a win? That could be what he wants to do, but that doesn't always work. You don't. When Palace brought on their substitutes against Macclesfield in the FA Cup, it didn't work for them.
Their main midfielder, McAllister's linked with he's got about 10 goals this season for them. I think he's linked with a move up to Scotland. I don't know if that's come about, if that's actually happened today or anything. But if something like that, or even if one of their other sort of good players get injured, then that's always a bonus.
I don't know. Ricardo Reese, who's they signed from, was it Merthyr Town? I don't know whether he'll be cup tied or not, but he's certainly been one that's in form. So there will be changes to be made by Forest Green. And interesting what you say, Alex, just to clarify, there's 8 national league teams left in the last 16. We're the only all National League ties. So going into the quarterfinals, you're going to have a maximum of 7 National League teams left. And when you look at it, it's quite curious because you've got Southend, Halifax, Forest Green, and Scunthorpe all playing for playoff places. The other 3 or 4 are Woking in 11th, Willstone in 12th, Tamworth in 13th, and Yeovil in 14th. So you've got 4 teams that are likely not to go up or go down, and you've got 3 or 4 teams. If we drop out and Forest Green win, as an example, you've got them in the playoff place or being safe. So there's a real nugget there for possibly those 4 mid-table teams, including ourselves, to have a little bit of a run, because we have no idea what Southend, Halifax, Forest Green, and Scunthorpe actually have in the back of their minds in terms of playoffs, because this season is bonkers in the National League. That top 7 is so tight that any one of them is not going to want to drop out, and they all keep beating each other. So they don't want to fall behind. So it'd be really interesting coming into the quarterfinals. 7 of those 8 could be National League teams, and I think possibly all of them beatable, including the likes of Southend, because we've got records that are decent against some of these teams. So. What if we were to get through here, Rob? Do you fancy our chances of a trip to Wembley? Oh, there'll be only 2 games to go from after Saturday.
I'm only 28, but I'm still scarred by 2 semi-final losses, just missing out on Wembley. You know what? I think I'm a bit more sceptical than others. I think there's some real bogey teams left in there. I wouldn't want to face Walton and Hersham if they got through. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they've got a lot of money behind them, and I think, look, obviously we'll be clear favourites, but that will be no walkover by any means. I think, again, as you said, Paul, a lot of the teams left are sort of looking like they're going to finish mid-table. I think they're all going to be bang up for it. We've certainly got a chance, but let's get through this. I think this is a very hard test on Saturday.
I think you're right. It's a little bit disrespectful of me, especially just to sort of hone in on the National League teams. But Walton and Hersham, who are a very well run side and doing very well in their league. Chatham Town, who beat Carlisle, in the last round. No disrespect to them, but Carlisle should be beating them no matter what side Carlisle put out on the field in that. So there is some stronger teams in the regional leagues below us that I could surprise some of these come Saturday and pick up points, because as we said, do we know whether Scunthorpe are going to play a strong team? Halifax, Southend, and we could be then facing tricky lower league opposition who can dare to dream of a Wembley trip. And we've seen it over the last few years. Not necessarily the bigger teams have got to trophy finals. So whoever we play, it's going to be tough. But Tim, do you dare to dream and see us get into Wembley?
Of course, every year we dream of that. Once we get through to the last 8, though, historically, Willstone, these are my own stats here, Willstone have won 5 out of 8 quarterfinal games. So should we get through, weight of history is on our side. We've only lost 3 times in quarterfinals in our history. Against Leytonstone, 1949. You remember that one, Paul?
Yeah, just about.
North Shields, 1969, and then Solihull 2 years ago. So only 3 times that we've lost in the quarterfinals. So get beyond that point, get into that stage, should I say. We can dare to dream. Why not? We know that we're good enough to play at Wembley. We've seen far weaker teams than Willstone play in the trophy final.
100%, I agree. And
what a boost that would be.
Completely. I've got that weekend free. I think the family have. I don't know about you, Alex. Have you got the weekend free, and you daring to dream that the Stones will be walking up Wembley way?
That weekend will be free. It doesn't matter what's going on that weekend. That's the most important thing. I always speak about the FA Trophy and how much.
What if Alex? What if your brother was getting married?
No, we've all talked about this.
We've all had discussions at length on the trains back from regular league games about what we would do in the trophy and how we would feel. And I was only speaking to another football fan or another Willstone fan last week about how we would feel if we won in the FA Trophy. Like we were like giving ourselves scenarios. Would you rather win 3-0 like Aldershot last season, or would you rather win 3-2 like Oldham did in the playoff? And which one would you prefer as a fan? You know, so we've already discussed this at length, and that is usually the topic of conversation around this time every single year. It's usually by mid-February that dream dies. But you know, but then I think for people like myself, and even for Rob more so, and other fans like Tom, all they've ever heard about is 1985, and you know, as much as it's a great core memory for a lot of people over the age of 40, it'd be nice to have our own version of that. You know, those Wilson fans in their late teens and early 20s, the ones we call the middle youth. It'd be quite good for those fans as well to finally experience it and live it the way that you guys speak about it. You know, that's what I want it. So I hear my dad speak about that day. And it's like, God, I would love to have been there.
Yeah, it also helped us to be playing Boston, who were well supported and were there for the first time in their history. That made it more special, really.
Yeah, I mean, the FA Trophy, I think for a club, I mean, it's quite cliche, but for a club like Woolstone, means more to us than, you know, one of these big belts. We know what it really means. We know how important it actually is for non-league teams. And yeah, I mean, before I die, that's one thing I do want to see. It's also win an actual trophy. Actually, see our captain lift a piece of silverware in the flesh.
Yeah, imagine Cookie doing that at Wembley.
Yeah, not on YouTube, like 5 years prior. I want to see it properly. Yeah,
maybe we should gather together for this conversation in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
when we know the draw for the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly that. I mean, yeah. Good luck to the team on Saturday. All four of us will be there. I'm sure we'll get a good following up in the wilds of Gloucester and eating vegan burger and chips, etc. So yeah, let's just hope the team put a similar performance they did to the Woking. You know, the intensity and effort and energy in that game would give anyone a test in this league. So let's just hope they go with that. And you know, we give ourselves a fighting chance, get through and see where it takes us for the quarterfinal draw. But we come back off the back of Forest Green, whether we win, lose or draw, etc. We have then got to go straight back into league action on the following Saturday against a bit of a bogey team for us in Eastleigh. Hugely consistently inconsistent team in the National League over the last few years. They've had a couple of managers. They've had change of ownership. They seem to be well run on and off the field. Not a massive fan base. You know, they just sort of plod along and just do bits, but they're not really exciting to anybody, really. So, you know, do we see our luck change against this EC, I suppose? Do we see a win come in down there at their place? Or is it going to be another tough one for us down on the south coast, Alex?
Oh, Eastleigh. I've done EC every year since we've been back in the National League. I don't think I've seen us win there. Got it.
We haven't, no.
Yeah, I usually no. The idea of going back there just makes me feel a bit sick. I probably will drive this year just because I just don't want to go back there. I want to get in and out as quickly as I can. The half-5 kickoff doesn't help either. I would love to see us win there. But you are right, Paul. They feel like a bogey team, especially away from home. I'm not really sure about their squad, so I can't really comment on their squad. I know Paul McCallum's gone. I think he's gone to Dorking. Am I right? I think he has.
That's right, yeah.
He's gone to Dorking. I think a few of the other good players left over the summer. Let's hope. Oh God, we've got to go into that away end as well with those home fans with the drum. Yeah, I hope we're on the side.
Teenage rampage.
Yeah, that's it. I would take a draw immediately. If someone said a draw, I'll take it. I would love a win though to finally, you know, get rid of that curse. Win would be fantastic, but I would take a draw always away from home.
Rob, what do you think? I mean, I don't particularly like going to Eastleigh. I think I sort of mirror what Alex has said, that them fans behind the drum throwing coins at you and all sorts of shenanigans. Yeah. Do you think the Stones can break that hoodoo and get that win that will be needed just to help us in that mid-table consolidation, but just to help with the good form sort of continuing?
Yeah, I mean, I had one of my birthdays at Eastleigh away, that 0-0 draw. So luckily it was kind of booze fueled. But so again, like Alex, I don't really have too many sort of pleasant memories there. I think I went to both or two of the draws there. I think again with Alex, I'd take a draw. I think one thing that is kind of frustrating is that we didn't have those two games against Gateshead and Tamworth, because I really thought we could have picked up some momentum then. And I know, maybe it's possibly a good thing that we players have had some rest in this sort of grueling season, but I really think we actually would have had more of a chance if we really did get some momentum against a very indifferent Tamworth and Gateshead, who haven't won in about have lost their last 15 matches in all competitions or something ridiculous. So we're not. I know we beat Woking, but I wouldn't say that we have some momentum at the minute. But having said that, Eastleigh have lost their last 4 games in all competitions, so why not? I think we could definitely get a point from it, and which is a point gained, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean they've won 2 and drawn 3 in the last 12, Eastleigh, so they're not in a huge vein of good form across the board. As I said, they're generally very inconsistent, aren't they, Tim? And they sit 16th at the time. Do you think they'll be looking over their shoulder at a relegation battle? Or do you think, if they beating someone like Wealdstone or getting points off a mid-table team is going to help them sort of consolidate in that middle area like us?
Yeah, they're well financed. Eastleigh, we know they're always going to be good enough to get out of any trouble. But going back to what Rob was saying about losing those games against Tamworth and Gateshead to postponement, I think luck plays a large part in any league season. And luck, to me, is often when you end up playing these teams. So Tamworth are in a poor run of form. We'd won our last 2. Tamworth have now gone into the market. They've got Dan Creaney back up front. They're going to be stronger when we now play them. We didn't travel to Gateshead, or it was, as you were saying, Alex, was a terrible run of form. And they've got new finance now, so they're going to be stronger by the time we play them. So instead of playing them when we're on a bit of a roll, we're going to end up playing them in this very congested period through early February through to early March, when we're playing every midweek, Tuesday, Saturday for 4 weeks. And on a fairly small score, which we've got, that could come back to bite us, I think. So to me, that's a large part of the luck in this division, is playing teams at the right time. And we do seem to be playing Eastleigh at the right time, because they haven't changed their manager, not since the start of the season anyway. They're in a poor run of form. They don't appear to have brought in anybody especially. So this could be a chance to follow up the Forest Green win on penalties with a league win.
Yeah, that's right.
They're pretty happy.
They've got Scott Bartlett has come in from Western-super-Mare earlier in the season after replacing Kelvin Davis, and he sort of lent on 2 or 3 Western-super-Mare players that were doing particularly well in the National League South under Bartlett. But that new manager bounce when a team gets a new manager hasn't seemed to have sort of translated for Eastleigh, whereas it might have done when you look at Sutton and you look at Halifax as examples. There's other teams we know with new managers aren't doing as well. But I think you're right, taking advantage of their poor form and our relatively okay form and getting 2 wins on the bounce, notwithstanding that 2-week break that we've had. I think we're going into it with a lot of positivity. Whether we win that trophy game or not, because that's the trophy and the league are 2 different things. So I'm positive that we can go down to Eastleigh, at least gain a draw, but maybe take it to them a little bit and see whether we can get 3 points, and it'll be another 3 points closer to us not having to worry about being at Oldham at the end of the season, which we always seem to have to be, no matter what league it is, to sort of stay up. So, yeah, I mean, I'm certainly positive around what we can do with them. We've got another couple of weeks. Do we get some signings in? Do they get signings in? There's a lot that will change in the next couple of weeks, even before we face them down at their place. But I'm certainly confident that we can get something out of off of them down there with how they've been playing.
I think after the results, the defeats against Aldershot and Boreham Wood, and then Carlisle when we barely laid a glove, I think that if we hadn't beaten Dagenham and Woking, would have been fans. I think would have lost the belief that we can get results in this division. But now we know we can. So that's mental side of it is huge, I think. And we're going into these games knowing that that system does work. That we can have belief that we're going to get wins.
So off the back of that, Tim and Alex and Rob, we've got not a lot to preview or review because of the weather stoppage. We've looked at those two games. Now, looking at the Eastleigh game, especially off the back of that win, what are some of your thoughts around who you think may go up, go down, who surprised you either individually or as a team this season so far? And, do we think, topics like are the top seven going to be that top seven with probably only seventh really up for grabs? Rob, what are your thoughts around the National League as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certain that one of Rochdale and York will win that automatic promotion spot. I know that's easy to say because they're obviously the top two teams and there's actually a bit of a gap forming. But I actually do think that they are just the two best teams in the division by far. Pearce, he got 26 league goals this season or something ridiculous. He's just outstanding. And you know what? Rochdale have had quite a few games in hand, but they won, was it last night, 2-1 against last minute winner against Southend? Winning games in hand is massive because you always look at sort of points. We always sort of say that points on the board is more important, but they're starting to, I think they're now top of the league. They've overtaken York. So I'm in no doubt there. I think the playoffs kind of speak for itself. I think Scunthorpe, Boreham Wood, Forest Green, Carlisle, they're all in the mix, and I'm pretty certain that those four teams will finish in that top six. Was it top seven? Top seven. Yeah. Top seven. Yeah. And then relegation wise, I mean, again, although Truro have kind of picked up a little bit in the last few months, I think Gateshead, even if they do have a bit of a rejuvenation, I think they're good for the job. Same with Morecambe and Truro, and then I think maybe one could fall in, possibly Boston. They've not really looked good for the last few months, even though they've had a change of manager. So I think those three, and then I think similar to last season, that fourth spot could be kind of anyone in the sort of bottom seven, bottom eight.
Yeah.
It's tight up there, Tim, isn't it? That top seven. I think Rob's right. The top two, Rochdale and York, are just edging away slightly, but there's a lot of. They've got all play each other, haven't they, up there? So there's still a lot of points up for grabs.
We've got a crucial game at home to York ourselves, haven't we, on the 14th of February,
yeah.
Our next home game. So that'll be interesting to see how good they are with their as good away as they are at home. Ollie Pearce is a fantastic player, isn't he? Nobody's going to take a punt on him in the Football League because he's nearly 30. And his dad, I don't know whether you know this, his dad, Jack Pearce, used to manage Bognor Regis. So he's from like the South Coast dynasty. Then he went to Worthing and scored a lot of goals there. And nobody thought he'd actually make the transition with Hinshelwood up to York and score goals and that. But he's done incredibly well. Such a good player at that level. And he'll probably do a Michael Cheek and go and score goals in League Two as well. And he's actually younger than Michael Cheek, who's astonishing footballer really for his age. So, Rochdale, for me, are the favourites now. They're winning games, having not played at home for a long time with their pitch problems. they've come back and they started winning these home games. As Rob says, winning games in hand, hugely important. And Carlisle, I don't believe that they're going to make it. Something's not quite right with them, although they're impressive against us. They weren't over impressive. But I don't really look. I'm not that interested in who goes up. I'm more interested in where Willstone are, really, in the middle of the division. Even going down this season, I'm hoping we're not going to be drawn into that. But as Rob said, I think there's going to be one place, the fourth and bottom, which is going to be up for grabs again, and you might see a surprise face dropping in there. Maybe Aldershot, maybe even Sutton, but more probably Braintree, I think.
Yeah, they could get down there. I mean, I think what's interesting about that top 7 is we've always had a couple of teams that are battling out and move away quite early on. This season, it always felt like any of that top 7 could potentially win the league, and it is starting to sort of spread that little bit. And the worry for York and everyone else is Rochdale nicked 2 wins in the last minute of both of the last 2 games. And I watched the game last night, and they just kept knocking on the door of Southend, who are a good side. And finally, Southend broke, and that's exactly what Rochdale are gonna have to do. With York, seem to be relentless in terms of scoring goals. Rochdale, as good a team as they are, they're going to have to just keep responding and finding wins wherever they can, similar to any team. And that bottom 4. Yeah, I think what surprised me about the bottom 4 is Gateshead. He was always going to catch up with them with Gateshead, because you can't keep losing managers to higher leagues. You can't keep losing players. You can't keep losing loan players back to, because they have a good spell at Gateshead and they've got an excellent brand that's well respected. And it was going to at some point catch them up. You can't just keep turning over and finding these players to replace those that have gone. And they've had to return back to Rob Elliott to take over. They made 7 signings in hope that might change. And I think you're right, Tim. We could have done with playing them now. I think in a few weeks' time, they might be a little bit more organised than they were. Morecambe, Alex, what are your thoughts on Morecambe? I've got plenty of thoughts on Morecambe. I think most of the National League fan base have. I mean, what the hell are they what are they doing down there? In terms of organising and management and ownership and all sorts.
Well, it's an absolute circus, and I feel sorry for those true Morecambe fans who believe they were saved, for them only to go through the ringer once more. And I don't know how that bloke, is it Jasveer Singh? I don't know how he's still in the job. I was reading this morning on Olo Toure and how poor of a manager he was before he became a coach at Morecambe. The players they have signed either on loan or they've bought. They bought loads of ex-league players from top academies. None of that has worked out, and they're just leaking goals. It's ridiculous. And any self-respected owner would see the writing on the wall back in November. It's ridiculous. They're destined to go one way unless things change. I believe even if things change, they are destined for the drop. Additionally, their former manager, I think it was Derek Adams, he's now director of football at Plymouth, who I think are 3-4 points off the playoffs. They've had an upturn of form since he's come into the role. So why are they getting rid of him when it's clear he's 10 times the manager of the guy they have currently? It's ludicrous. It's laughable. It's laughable. I just want to draw your attention, though, moving on from Morecambe, to the last game of the season. Not for Willstone, for Rochdale. The last game of the season, Rochdale have York City.
Oh, yeah.
So as a neutral...
Made for TV.
Yes, as a neutral, and, I'd love it if Maynard would send York up. As a neutral, to watch that, if they're on equal points, would be spectacular. It would be like the old Notts County Wrexham games and the Wrexham Stockport games from 5-6 years ago. Gun to my head, I would say that Rochdale will go up, but I could see York picking up form, not picking up form, continuing with their current form, and they slowly but surely catch up, and Rochdale by about March crumble.
Is that at York?
York, I think, will continue playing the way they are. I can't see York losing many games from now until the end of the season. It is now really up to Rochdale. Can they match York's points per game? That's what it's going to come down to now. I mean, I am stating the obvious, but I don't think York are going to let up any steam, and it's now up to Rochdale to match York. That's the only way Rochdale are going to do it. They can't rely on York zipping up. Rochdale need to match York's points every single week.
Well, we've got Rochdale on the 11th of April, 2 games before that. So hopefully we'll be safe, and we'll put up a good fight up at Spotland. The Rochdale-York game is at Spotland. York, I think, won 4-1 at the reverse fixture at their place and absolutely tore Rochdale a new one in the second half. So I think you're right, Alex. It's set up to be an absolute blockbuster, that if not one of them's already run away with the league. And as a neutral, you could be a great advert for the National League. There was a stat. It was interesting to see Rochdale have got, I think, about 8 or 9 games in February because of the catching up with fixtures. They're not playing Saturday because I don't know who they were due to play, but with the FA Trophy on. So again, there's going to be a game to catch up from Saturday. I think they've got 8 or 9 games. So if they come out the back of February, on the tails or above York or picking up points, then it's game on going into March and April. But I think this is a real make and break month for a lot of the clubs, in terms of Tuesday, Saturdays, because of that couple of weeks that have been off and trophies and FA Cups involvement. So, we'll probably be in a better place at the end of Feb to see what the March, April will look like for a lot of teams. But I'm hoping Wealdstone will be sort of sit there pretty in mid-table. I think all of us are. Maybe push towards that sort of 9th, 10th, 11th place and be comfortable, and maybe have a last 2 months where we're not having to fret about going here, there, and everywhere to pick up points and keep our National League survival. But in terms of sort of concluding tonight and everything else, I just wanted to make a point of thanking our sponsors, Raw Feast, who have very kindly sponsored the podcast. So if anyone has any commercial, land development, new home sales, or letting inquiries, please get in touch with Robert there or Max, and they'll be glad to help. And we do thank them for their continued support of the podcast. And finally, just to finish off in talking about support, one of our own, Adam Hills, who presents this show and helps with the commentary and has blogged about Wealdstone and across social media, he set up a mental health project called Walk Talk Footy. You can find him on Instagram, and Adam's put this together into from personal experiences. There's a video on there. He openly sort of says that his mental health journey has been quite a challenge over the last few years, and I made some notes. He's raising awareness in physical and mental health in football fans. It's aimed towards those that are football going supporters. We're one big family across the country, be it league or non-league. And the message really there is don't deal with anything in silence. It's what better way to do it than through the football community? We've all got a common goal. Yes, it's very male orientated as the football community, I would suggest, and males are those that are most at risk of not talking and not being sort of brave around what it is, and they'll bottle it up and carry on. And we see suicide rates in men, especially middle age, to be quite high. So, in terms of dealing with it in silence, what better way, as Adam says, than to sort of talk through the football community? And this is it's a safe space to be able to reach out to others, and with that commonality of your team or the like of football, it will start conversations, and it will allow for those that wish to talk and feel safe to do so. So, Adam started off with some of his, I don't know if you were involved, Rob or Alex, the 8 miles from Camberley to watch Wealdstone. So, from your perspective, how did you find it, and how do you see this sort of project unfolding and being a benefit to many?
It's great. I mean, there were 6 of us, and it was, around that period where, people weren't at work. We didn't really have anything to do, and we just thought, why not? It's a great way to, one, get some exercise, get some steps in, and 2, just have a chat. There were a few people. I brought one of my friends along who's only been to 1 or 2 Wealdstone games, and hadn't met some of the guys that went, but we all just talked, which sounds so simple, but sometimes you don't actually do it that often, especially at football. You might talk about how the game was last week, or how you want us to do, or have a bit of a more of a positive chat about life and socializing and things like that. But asking someone how they are, how their Christmas has been, how are you? Literally simply asking that's seriously underrated, especially amongst blokes as well. And we just had a great time. And I look back at that game, Aldershot, and obviously we were dreadful that day, but I look back and I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad I went, mainly for the walking, the talking, but not the footy. So yeah, it's a really good initiative that Hillsey set up, and going into the summer as well, and when the weather picks up, I think you'll see a lot more on his social media page with that.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And they always say that the football's the worst thing about the day out of the football. And if you can enhance someone's day and help in their life in that moment by just, as you say, just saying, how are you? And are you sure you're okay? Are you okay? And it's okay not to be okay. Someone might open up, and it's sometimes when you're least expecting it, or you're least expecting that individual that you may not know and connect with straight away to feel confident to say something. So, Tim, would you see this as something that would be positive for the Wealdstone fans, the Wealdstone base, and something that we would all hopefully get involved in? I think Rob's right. When the weather gets a little bit nicer,
I'll be happy to walk down from Kings Langley. Alex lives around the corner from me, and Hillsey as well, just around the corner. We could walk down to a game, couldn't we? I mean, it's very true, actually. Men don't talk to each other, do they, about more personal stuff, what's going on in their private life. It's all about, are we going to win this week? Why didn't we win last week? But close friends, you do talk to, and you talk about things that you wouldn't normally. I mean, for me, that's the way I go. I've got several close friends connected with the football club and outside football as well. I wouldn't feel the need to do that, but it's always good to talk to people anyway.
Yeah, and I suppose, but the thing with it is if you're in that relaxed setting amongst people that the conversation might organically sort of move towards something, and you just happen to say something that might encourage, the opening up of that individual. I know I certainly have been at times, personally, where I'm not afraid to tell people that there's issues going on at home, and we all carry, as Adam said, we all carry those challenges, and I think it's hugely important that we do talk to each other. There's nothing worse than turning around and saying, "Oh, they didn't have a chance to talk to anyone. Why didn't they talk to us?" This is a great opportunity to do that, and you make new friends from it, right, Rob? As you say, your pals come along, doesn't watch Wealdstone too much, walks with 4 or 5 other fellas. There's that common thing that they'll recognise them next time, and all of a sudden you sort of grow that friendship base as well, and it helps the football club, it helps you personally, it helps those that are being challenged. So, a great initiative from Hillsey there, and he's going to be fully supported by the StonesCast team. As I say, Alex, do you reckon you'll get out and about and take Gordon that's on your shoulder around with you and take him for a walk and have a chat?
You're half right. I'll happily go for the walk. I'm not sure. I'd rather be seen dead.
Hey, Alex, you did the Tough Mudder, mate. That was
just about. Jesus Christ. The initiative that Hillsey's made is fantastic. I mean, with the job that I work in education, I see it all too often, which is young men, and they're I teach kids from 11 years old to 18, and you could see how this kind of, I don't want to come across as quite soft, but the toxic masculinity, this kind of need to be a certain way and to fit a certain mold and to behave in a certain way around your mates. I see it every day, and I mean, I definitely do try. I say try. I probably don't do it very well to speak to these young people, men and women as well, about this idea of talking. Like Rob said, just a simple "How are you?" How to be a good friend. And I feel like that's a lesson we not only should teach the youth, also teach, middle-aged blokes or the middle youth like ourselves, because a lot of us weren't equipped with the skills of how to speak about quite personal matters. So going out for a walk with your mates, where it's a very comfortable and protected and safe environment for you to talk about things you wouldn't usually would, it's vital to protect our mental health. And I always say it. I mean, a problem shared is a problem halved. And usually by talking about those problems, you kind of are able to see it a bit more clearly and with a bit more perspective as well. So I'm really pleased with what Hillsy's done, and I'm looking forward to going on a few of those walks, hopefully when the weather's a bit nicer and I've lost a bit of weight.
Well, and listen, I think we're all hoping for a slightly nicer weather coming into the next few months. But just to reiterate, we talk about it being an issue in men and young men, but Walk Talk Footy is open to all of us. It's inclusive, age, sex, ability, anything that we can do to help each other as a fan base at Wealdstone or our wider football community. Then Walk Talk Footy is there for us. Now, if Walk Talk Footy isn't really for you because it includes maybe a little bit of physical exercise of walking, etc., then we do also have Heads Up, which meet every Wednesday at the Vale in the social club. It has been set up by Wealdstone supporters in a similar vein to Walk Talk Footy. It's a support group there. I think it is aimed towards more the male population, but again, I don't see how they would not welcome those that wish to join. But two great initiatives from Wealdstone supporters to really help their friends and their footballing family, down at the Vale and that wider sort of football community as well. So please, anyone who's watching it, promote it. Please go along and support it. If you feel that you need to speak to someone, you've got those, the ability to do that really. And, I'm sure one or all of us will be willing to have a listen. So, please do sort of take part and support those great initiatives. So, chaps, that does wrap up StonesCast for the day, for the evening. We've got a lot to look forward to. Forest Green on Saturday, Eastleigh coming up. Do we have an FA Trophy run? Do we dare to dream? But for now, thanks again to Rolf East for the sponsorship. Follow us on X or Instagram via @StonesCast85 and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please share far and wide. Spread the word of Wealdstone and everything that happens down at this brilliant football club. And until next time, up the Stones.
Up the Stones.
Up the Stones.
And get to Forest Green.